Well, on Thursday, they'll quietly and apologetically release their $100 million documentary series on Netflix.
That is why Netflix have finally admitted or revealed this week that they are ending their relationship with her, which I predicted in my book. I mean, the book just shows exactly how Meghan's commercial ambitions failed right at the very beginning.
The irony is earth-shattering, isn't it? Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of gaslighting themselves. The entire show is a cynical attempt to manipulate viewers into questioning their own recollections of reality.
As ever, the truth is finally coming out when it comes to Meghan Markle's deal with Netflix, and as ever. And of course, it leaves Meghan massively.
The Sussexes face bankruptcy. They're going to run out of money. Not my words, but the words of the fearless Tom Bower.
That until she came along, they would get money on the shake of a hand. She said corporate charities now have to produce corporate governance plans, and people don't give money without that. And he didn't understand that. He was impatient with all that.
But of course, since then, we've seen how she has completely exploited her position and become a global star at the expense of the royal family of Britain. That she and Harry were relegated so far down the order. She got everything she wanted and then knew what she wanted and couldn't get, and that was a lot. That's why, of course, she never intended to stay.
As with all things Meghan and Harry, it would seem, the truth just doesn't really exist in their world. It's their truth, their version of it. Meghan also lambasted the entire BBC engagement interview as rehearsed and an orchestrated reality show, because that's the last thing she'd be engaging in, isn't it? An orchestrated reality show like the Netflix series.
Tom Bower sees through this couple, and he's got previous on this because, of course, Tom Bower was the author of the original devastating book, Revenge.
So you've got revenge, now you've got betrayal.
And now we're all paying the price. The monarchy is paying the price. But unfortunately, this saga has a long way to go, and it's going to constantly damage the royal family.
From the very first headline, Piers Morgan said this whole thing smelled off. Tom Bower pushed even harder, warning that the shine, the hype, and the giant numbers around Harry and Meghan's post-royal business life could end in a very messy fall. Now, in April 2026, their critics are pointing at what they see as the wreckage and saying, "We told you so," because if the claims being circulated are even close to true...
Harry and Meghan, the dreariest couple in the history of planet Earth, if you excuse the massive book deals, the Silicon Valley startup preaching videos about well-being, the podcast, the speeches, and the major network interviews with everyone from Oprah Winfrey to James Corden. But they've barely been seen or heard at all, have they? Well, on Thursday, they'll quietly and apologetically release their $100 million documentary series on Netflix. There are trailers for this, and viewers with sensitive stomachs should look away now.
Then somewhere in the United States, a mountain of unsold lifestyle products is sitting in storage, aging by the day, losing value, and turning what was sold as a glamorous success story into a full-blown public embarrassment. Jam, candles, honey, flower sprinkles, gift boxes, all of it tied to big branding, big promises, and even bigger headlines. And according to the narrative now exploding online, a huge amount of that stock is not moving. It is just sitting there, boxed up, stacked up, and becoming a symbol of a rollout that looked polished on the surface, but may have been shaky underneath from the jump. This is the version of the story critics cannot stop repeating. It is the story of a mega deal, a celebrity image machine, and a lifestyle launch that was supposed to scream luxury, influence, and unstoppable momentum. Instead, according to commentators like Piers Morgan and biographer Tom Bower,
Netflix series. Michelle Hussein from the BBC, who carried out the interview, said, actually, no, it was just an interview. Even the BBC's long-serving royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell, normally bent double to avoid upsetting absolutely anybody in royal circles, can't take it anymore. Nothing they ever say seems to stand up to reasonable scrutiny. And I say that as somebody who lost his last job presenting Good Morning Britain because I wouldn't apologise for saying I didn't believe Meghan Markle. Think about that.
It has become a cautionary tale about inflated headlines, expensive image building, and the brutal difference between publicity and real consumer demand. And the reason this has people glued to the story is simple. When you line up the money talk, the product claims, the warehouse chatter, and the weak sales accusations all in one place, the picture starts to look rough, really rough. So let's start where the loudest critics always start, with the number that grabbed the world by the throat. $100 million. That was the headline number attached to the Netflix deal, and it sounded massive, untouchable, almost unreal. Supporters celebrated it like proof that Harry and Meghan had outplayed the royal system and stepped into a glittering new Hollywood throne. Meghan was presented as a woman building an empire, a polished media figure moving from palace walls to California power. But Piers Morgan never bought the fairy tale for 1 second. He argued that the giant number was headline bait, a flashy top-line figure designed to stun the public, not a neat bag of cash dropped into their laps. Tom Bower went after the same issue from another angle. He did not just mock the number, he questioned the structure behind it. According to the kind of breakdown critics have been pushing, Netflix was not simply handing over a blank check and walking away. Large entertainment deals do not usually work like that, and that is the point Bower and Morgan have kept hammering.
In the book, I mean, the jam, which was meant to be the strawberries picked in her garden and then lovingly turned into jam on the hob in her kitchen with Lilibet looking on, in fact is a spread manufactured in Ohio, Illinois, and put into a rather attractive jar. We tracked the jar makers down too.
Development costs, production budgets, staff, branding, logistics, legal expenses, tax exposure, distribution, and overhead can chew through headline figures fast. So when critics talk about that $100 million, they frame it as a shiny headline number, not a clean personal payout. And once you strip away the glamour, this is where the mood changes fast. The argument from Meghan's critics is that a huge chunk of whatever was committed in that deal would have been swallowed by production expenses and business infrastructure. That means documentaries, staffing, brand building, warehousing, packaging, shipping, consultants, image management, and all the costly moving parts that come with launching anything at that level. Then taxes take another bite, then lifestyle expenses come in swinging, and suddenly, what sounded like endless money starts looking a lot more limited than people assumed. That is where Piers Morgan loves to get blunt. Strip it down, he says, and the maths starts looking ugly. Critics have argued that after production costs, taxes and operating burn, the truly usable money may have been far smaller than the public imagined. And that matters, because Montecito is not exactly a cheap place to keep up appearances. Tom Bower's angle has long been that the Sussex lifestyle depends on very high annual outgoings, and if the income side is unstable, then the whole thing becomes a pressure cooker. Security, property costs, staffing, travel, PR, legal fights, image maintenance, all of it adds up fast.
All this stuff. And these bundles right here, guys, are for a bookmark that she deliberately, I think, understocked to try and sell out other stock that's not moving. She did this, a month or two ago now? None of it's moved. It's all still for sale. We have the bundles, all still for sale. We have all this stuff. These were technically Valentine's Day, still for sale. All this, most of this stuff, guys, was made for Christmas, and it's still for sale.
This was found on Reddit, and the thread was started by, make sure I attribute it. So it's Kiwi Love 777. This is a person who kind of discovered it. And basically what you do is you put in an absurd number. So 10,000, 100,000, most likely 100,000, million, whatever, of items into your as ever bucket. And it will let you know how much is still left in inventory and how much they can put in your cart.
So even a large deal can start looking a lot less life-changing if the drain is constant and the output is underperforming. Then comes the product story. And this is where the tone goes from skeptical to savage. Meghan's branding around jam and home-style goods was pitched with warmth, charm, and personal touch. It was sold with that soft focus image of a California kitchen, garden-fresh ingredients, handcrafted elegance, and a cozy luxury vibe. That image matters because it is not just about food. It is about authenticity. It is about making buyers feel like they are getting a piece of a carefully curated life. But Tom Bower, in the version of events pushed by critics, questioned how real that picture was. He reportedly looked into the sourcing and manufacturing side, and what he described painted a much less romantic image. Not some dreamy farmhouse setup, not some intimate hand-tended production flow. But commercial scale facilities and ordinary supply channels, the kind of industrial reality that clashes hard with the intimate story being marketed to the public. And that is the issue that seems to keep enraging critics. It is not just about jam, it is about the gap between what was implied and what may actually have existed behind the scenes. Piers Morgan grabbed that angle and ran with it. Hard, he has repeatedly mocked what he sees as brand theatre, accusing the Sussex operation of selling image first and substance second. To him, the whole thing fits the label he has used for years. Grifters, a word he has thrown around publicly and loudly. Tom Bower's reporting gave that line extra ammunition because once questions about sourcing, manufacturing and scale enter the chat, the glossy kitchen story brand starts looking shaky to people already inclined not to trust it. Then, January 2026 made things even worse, at least in the eyes of critics, because this is where the internet did what the internet always does when it smells weakness. It started poking around. According to claims that spread online, people found a website glitch by loading products into a shopping basket in unusually large quantities. And if those reports are accurate, the glitch appeared to reveal stock numbers that were way bigger than the public's sellout energy suggested. That is the moment critics say the curtain slipped. The numbers being quoted were explosive, roughly 650,000 individual items, with a supposed retail value in the neighbourhood of $21.8 million, allegedly sitting unsold. If true, that is not a small mismatch. That is a giant red warning light flashing over the whole brand story. And once those figures started circulating, the tone online turned vicious. People began asking whether the sellouts had been carefully staged, whether scarcity had been part of the marketing script, and whether the image of overwhelming demand was more performance than reality. The item breakdown only made it look worse. Tens of thousands of fruit spread gift boxes, tens of thousands of marmalade jars, huge numbers of flour sprinkles, massive candle inventory. It sounded less like a chic boutique drop and more like a warehouse begging for an exit strategy. For critics who already believed the brand was running on smoke, this was pure gold. They did not see a temporary slowdown. They saw confirmation. And then came the mocking details that make stories like this spread even faster. Complaints from buyers, chatter about product quality, and the kind of petty but damaging stories that punch holes in premium branding. One of the most repeated claims was that some candles allegedly arrived without a wick. That kind of detail is brutal for a luxury image because it turns the whole thing into a joke in one line. A candle you cannot light. A premium lifestyle item that instantly becomes meme material. That is the sort of thing critics love because it is simple, visual, and humiliating. Then there is the sales talk, and this may be the harshest part of all. According to online trackers and critics discussing January 2026 sales, the movement over a 48-hour period was tiny compared to the stock allegedly sitting there. The figure that keeps getting repeated is just 15 jars of marmalade and 39 gift boxes sold over 2 days. If that number is accurate, it is devastating. Not because 15 jars sounds small on its own, but because it sounds microscopic when set against the scale of the inventory claims. That is when Piers Morgan's long-running argument about the Meghan effect being overstated suddenly sounded to his supporters less like trolling and more like vindication. Tom Bower's line hits even colder. If the inventory is truly that high and the sales pace is truly that weak, then you are not looking at a temporary pause. You are looking at a slow, expensive countdown. Food products expire. Scented goods fade, packaging ages, trends move on, public attention shifts. A warehouse full of luxury lifestyle stock is not just stock. It is pressure. Every day it sits there, it becomes harder to turn into profit and easier to turn into loss. That is why the most damaging image in this whole story is not even the warehouse itself. It is the idea that goods connected to a much-hyped celebrity empire may have ended up being handed around just to clear space. Critics have repeated claims that millions of dollars worth of product could not be moved and that some items were allegedly being given away internally. Free jam in a break room has become one of those brutal little images phrase that says more than a spreadsheet ever could, because nothing kills the aura of luxury faster than the sense that premium goods are quietly being treated like leftovers. And through all of this, Piers Morgan keeps counting the vanished magic, while Tom Bower keeps stripping away the fairy dust. One attacks with mockery, the other with cold narrative detail, but both land on the same message. The image did not match the reality. That giant Netflix number, the lifestyle glow, the handcrafted branding, the instant sellout image, all of it starts looking very different when critics place it next to questions about stock, sourcing, burn rate, and weak demand. Which brings us to the next brutal twist in this saga, because while Tom Bower was digging into factories, figures, and the mechanics behind the lifestyle brand, and while Piers Morgan was loudly enjoying every crack in the Sussex business image, the show that was supposed to justify the whole Netflix gamble was not rising to save the story at all. It was drifting, losing force, and quietly dying with love. What really pushed this whole saga from shaky to downright humiliating was not just the product mess. It was the collapse of the very show that was supposed to make Meghan look unstoppable. Meghan launched the first season in March 2025, but the reaction was weak from the start. The buzz never exploded the way her supporters expected, and by the time Season 2 arrived in August 2025, the silence was even louder. It did not break into Netflix's weekly top 10 even once, and that alone gave her critics all the ammo they needed to start swinging. By late 2025, the picture looked even worse. Reports circulating online claimed the series had sunk to a shockingly low position on the platform, with some commentary placing it at number 1,217 and others going even further, saying it had dropped to 3,436 among Netflix titles. That number spread fast because it sounded brutal, and then came the claim that the second season drew only around 2 million total views. For a project tied to one of the most talked about celebrity couples in the world, critics saw that as a disaster, not a victory. And what made the whole thing look even colder was this. There was allegedly no grand statement, no public defense, no loud farewell. The series was simply treated like it had faded away. Tom Bower's view on all this has been absolutely savage. He has argued that Meghan does not have the screen presence needed to hold an audience in this kind of format. In his telling, a lifestyle series needs someone who feels natural, engaging, warm, and believable. Someone viewers want to spend time with every single episode. His criticism is that Meghan, outside of a tightly managed image, does not project that easy connection. That is his opinion, and he has not been subtle about it. Piers Morgan, of course, enjoyed every second of that collapse narrative and jumped on it in his usual sharp style. When Netflix reportedly shifted to a downgraded first look arrangement after the show's failure, Piers pounced with the kind of line that spreads because it is cruel and funny at the same time. He reposted a joke saying Netflix had basically given Harry and Meghan first refusal on their ideas, frustrating rival streamers that wanted the rights to say no first. That line travelled fast because it summed up the mood around them in one brutal hit. It was not just criticism anymore, it was mockery. And once mockery becomes the dominant tone around a celebrity brand, that is when the damage gets hard to reverse. But the deeper issue, according to Bower and Morgan, is not just that the show stumbled. It is that the stumble exposed a far bigger problem. They say the Netflix era was sold to the public as proof that Harry and Meghan had cracked the code: global fame, streaming power, endless influence, and easy money. Yet the more projects underperformed, the more critics started asking an ugly question. Was there ever a real business engine behind the image at all? Because if the flagship show cannot pull major numbers and the product line is drowning in unsold inventory, then the glamorous empire pitch starts looking less like strategy and more like branding smoke. And then comes the Tyler Perry chapter, the part that really makes this whole story feel wild. Back in 2020, when Harry and Meghan were scrambling after leaving royal life behind, Tyler Perry stepped in during a moment of chaos. He reportedly opened the doors of his $18 million Beverly Hills mansion to them and let them use his personal security team too. Critics and supporters alike saw that move as a huge act of generosity. He was helping a couple in transition, giving them shelter, privacy, and protection when the world was watching them like hawks. That is why the story now circulating in 2026 hits so hard. According to claims repeated in tabloids and gossip circles, Perry is done with them. Finished. The allegation is that Harry and Meghan still owe him a massive loan, said to be around $14 million, and that the situation has turned so sour, he allegedly cannot even get them on the phone. The detail that really stings is the one about unanswered calls, because whether every dollar figure is right or not, that image is poisonous. A man who helped them in their lowest moment now supposedly being ignored, while money questions hang in the air. Piers Morgan has used that story to hammer the same point he has made for years. How, he asks, can a couple attached to such huge headline numbers, Netflix money, Spotify money, Harry's memoir money, still end up with these kinds of alleged financial problems? How do people who are presented as financial power players end up in a situation where stories like this can even sound believable? To critics, the answer is simple and brutal. The money came in with huge expectations, but the spending and the lifestyle burned through the cushion faster than the public ever realised. Tom Bower's line has been just as harsh. Security alone, he argues, costs a fortune every year. Then you add the Montecito mortgage, staff, legal costs, PR, travel, brand overhead, product losses, consultants, and every other expensive piece of maintaining celebrity status at that level. In that version of the math, they are not living a relaxed California dream. They are stuck on a treadmill that demands millions every year just to stand still. And if one stream dries up, then two, then three, panic starts creeping in fast. That is where Piers Morgan says they made the fatal mistake. In his eyes, they confused being famous with being financially secure. They assumed public attention would naturally convert into long-term business success. But attention is not loyalty, and curiosity is not the same thing as customers spending again and again. The world may watch you, talk about you, argue about you, even obsess over you, but that does not mean it will buy whatever you put on the shelf. That distinction, critics say, is the crack that broke the whole thing apart. Which brings this story to the newest chapter, April 2026, and Meghan's headline-grabbing Australia trip, a girls' weekend, a staged event, a ticketed appearance in Sydney with prices reported around $3,000. On the surface, it sounds glamorous, stylish even, but the critics did not see glamour. They saw pressure. Piers Morgan summed it up with one word: desperation. Tom Bower's argument was even more cutting. If Meghan could not dominate the American market, the biggest consumer arena in the world, then why would Australia suddenly be the place that turns everything around? And here is the detail that makes the Australia angle look even more strategic than it first appeared. Back in September 2024, Meghan reportedly filed 12 separate trademarks tied to the lifestyle brand with Australian authorities: food, candles, clothing, dog treats, jewellery, home decor, and more. A whole spread of categories that suggest long-term commercial plans, not just a casual overseas appearance. Those marks were reportedly granted in 2025, and critics instantly connected the dots. To them, this was never just a fun weekend. It was market scouting. It was brand expansion. It was an attempt to find fresh buyers while the US side looked shaky. That is why the whole thing drew so much heat. Bower and Morgan both treated the trip as proof that Meghan was now chasing a new customer base because the old one was not delivering. In their framing, she was not showing up in Australia as a carefree celebrity. She was showing up as someone trying to move product, build a market, and revive a brand that critics say is drowning under its own hype. And when that interpretation caught fire online, the jam jokes came rushing back hard. Then there is the controversy around the event organizer itself, which made the optics even uglier. Reports circulated that the agency behind the event had collapsed in November 2025 while owing the Australian tax office more than $500,000 in unpaid taxes. Administrators were reportedly pursuing the founder. Yet not long after that became public, the same name was attached to a flashy Meghan event with premium pricing and polished promotion. That made people stop and stare, because even if you strip away all the drama, it still sounds chaotic. A struggling agency, a struggling brand, and a luxury event trying to project prestige while ugly financial headlines hang over everything. Bower's supporters say this is exactly the path he warned about from the start, that Meghan would eventually be forced into selling the brand harder and farther, chasing prestige markets, celebrity panels, live appearances, and lifestyle tie-ins, because the grand Hollywood version of the empire had not materialized. In that telling, Australia is not a triumph. It is a pivot under pressure. It is what happens when the dream gets smaller, but the bills stay enormous. And then you look at the wider money picture critics keep pointing to, and the mood gets even darker. Archewell's publicly discussed donation figures reportedly dropped from around $13 million in 2021 to just $2.1 million in 2024. At the same time, spending reportedly hit $5.1 million, leaving a major deficit. Those numbers, repeated by critics again and again, are used to argue that even the philanthropic side of the Sussex operation is under strain. Whether one agrees with that interpretation or not, the headline impression is awful. Falling donations, rising expenses, shrinking momentum, and non-stop questions about sustainability. Then came another awkward Hollywood moment that only added to the frost. Actor Jack Quaid was reportedly asked on camera about the idea of working with Meghan on an upcoming Amazon film, and his reaction got people talking fast. He appeared to freeze, offered a vague "it was insane," and then shifted into praising practically everyone else connected to the project without really saying anything direct about Meghan herself. That might sound small, but in Hollywood, tiny pauses speak loud. Piers Morgan instantly leaned into that, saying that when people have nothing nice to say, they start complimenting somebody else instead. It was a nasty read. But for critics, it landed because it fit the pattern they already believed they were seeing. Tom Bower's conclusion through all of this has stayed consistent. He argues Meghan is now paying the price for burning bridges, alienating institutions, and overestimating the strength of her own appeal outside the royal story. Piers Morgan's version is even more blunt. He says the empire was never solid, the hype was always inflated, and the so-called Meghan effect was mostly fiction once it had to survive in the real world of products, programming, and profit. In their eyes, everything that has happened since just keeps proving the same point over and over again. So now, in April 2026, this is the brutal image critics are left with. A woman who had global attention, a giant streaming platform, a luxury brand push, and endless headlines, yet still somehow ended up surrounded by weak viewership claims, inventory trouble, money questions, awkward industry reactions, and a growing sense that the magic is gone. The dream sold to the public was massive. The reality, critics say, looks painfully smaller. And that is why the final symbol of this whole saga is almost too perfect. After all the grand speeches, all the glossy branding, all the fame, all the headlines, all the media deals, all the California reinvention, what is left standing at the center of the mess? The jam. Just the jam, the candles, the gift boxes, the lifestyle image, and a warehouse-sized question hanging over all of it. Because in the eyes of Meghan's loudest critics, the empire did not crash because people were not watching. It crashed because watching is not the same as believing, and believing is definitely not the same as buying. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you think this story goes next. And do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next royal bombshell.